Hello and welcome to the 12 Days of DevRel campaign at Hazelcast. I'm your host, Fawaz Gali, and today joining me, our Senior Director of Platform Engineering, Aftar Ekmo. Hello, Aftar.
Hey, Fawaz, pleasure to join you.
How are you today? Where are you now?
Yeah, today I'm actually in the London office. So it's a fairly new office which we moved into this year. It's been an interesting day so far. Just after my lunch break. So if you find me somewhat dozing off, you know exactly why.
Don't worry, I'll make the session as easy as possible. And the fact is, it's DevRel and community based. So we would just want to highlight the Hazelcast features. And today we're on day number 5. We have 12 days to go, so 7 to go. So if anyone watching us live, make sure to sign up on the link below. So perhaps for today's session, maybe we can start by your experience and your background. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Hazelcast.
Yeah, for sure. So I started my career actually in finance. I spent a long time there. I won't tell you exactly how many years, but it was certainly a long time. Did some various roles for some large financial services institutions before eventually deciding I actually wanted a bit of a break from finance and went and worked for Facebook Meta. So working there for a number of years, did a few different things there before joining Hazelcast just over 12 months ago. So, all through my career, really have been focused on, real-time data platforms, actually looking at stream processing, and also just looking at how we actually make access to data as fast and as effective as possible. So, that's really been my background, right? And so now it's a real pleasure to help, by supporting the platform engineering team that we have that's distributed across all of Europe as well as North America. So, at Hazelcast here, we're quite lucky to be working with some super smart people, but also people who are from many different backgrounds and many different countries as well, which is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this is great to hear. So for newcomers and new joiners, what is Hazelcast? What does it do actually that makes it unique as well?
Yeah, so Hazelcast is a really interesting product to be working with because there's so many facets to it. So, what does Hazelcast do? Is there is no one thing I can give you, which it actually is the only one thing it does. It's everything from being a fast data store to being strongly consistent to being able to support larger than RAM persistence, multi-site availability, as well as stream processing, right? So it's basically a number of different facets, right? Typically, you would find that across 3 or 4 or 5 products, but to be able to find that in one product, I think is incredibly rare. And Bizcast is incredibly performant as well in each of those sectors. So you end up finding that you have this product which is actually immensely capable and immensely valuable as well, and being able to then like help develop that and take the direction forwards. That's pretty much the most exciting part, I think, of my day.
Yeah, this is great to hear. I think this term is real-time term is being used so many places. And I was just reading an article you wrote. So anyone is actually watching us, check our blog as well. So you literally said the time is now. Can you describe what real time is and why it is so important for businesses as well as tech to move to real time?
Absolutely. I think, data is available everywhere. We're always creating brand new data, right? And when you create data, typically an event has occurred, which is resulting in that data's creation. The ability to then react to that event at that point of creation is critical because that's the only way you can actually react the fastest. If you're bringing all these events and all this data back to a system which you're then running maybe overnight processing on, you're already going to be out of the game, right? And real time is kind of an interesting term because real time simply means fast enough. And that can be many different things to many different sectors or individuals. So for some, real time means within a millisecond, within a nanosecond. For some, real time just means intraday. So as we think about real time going forward, essentially it just means being able to act on that data as quickly and as effectively as possible, and so there's nothing more faster than instantaneously, essentially.
I guess it requires some special skills from engineering perspective to be able to create such tool and such features. Can you just describe what are use cases, for example, or where do you see the use of Hazelcast?
Yeah, so Hazelcast, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a product which we see being able to do many different things. So as a use case that we see out there, both from community as well as enterprise customers, we see it from mission critical systems, for example, a payments orchestration layer supporting the Bank of England. So not just company critical, but country critical essentially as well. So we have those kinds of use cases as well as being able to, I think you had a lovely demo of being able to track pizza deliveries, right? So it's the whole spectrum, essentially, something from absolute mission critical, highly available, highly consistent use cases, transactions processing, payments processing, these kinds of use cases, right the way through to being able to track how you're delivering on logistics, or even how you're tracking on your Internet of Things devices, and whether the edge devices are actually processing and doing what they need to do. So we see the whole breadth of that spectrum.
So we're getting to a hot area here, so which is machine learning and AI, but I don't want to touch it just yet. But if I'm coming from data science background, or
Mhm.
if my experience basically is with data, I'm sure like data scientists look for SQL integration or SQL capabilities. So can you just describe what SQL capabilities within Hazelcast we currently have?
Yeah, so SQL is a really interesting API. Essentially, meta programming is something which is increasingly important these days. Individuals are coming to engineering really without the traditional engineering disciplines of maybe even computer science. So, what we try and do with the Hazelcast platform is to democratize access to that data. And we do that by providing streaming SQL, essentially, the ability to act in real time on the stream of events that they are going through the system, be able to create what we determine is a job and use that job to then do processing on that data essentially. So SQL is being used typically for analytical use cases as well as streaming SQL use cases also. But we definitely see more use case and more adoption around some of the larger analytical queries where, as you mentioned in data science, just being able to trawl through those incredibly large data sets is quite time consuming, and being able to access them using tools that you are already familiar with. That's essentially the objective that we're trying to provide. We're trying to give you super fast access to all of that data, but in the tools that you are actually familiar with using.
Yeah, this is great here. I think also from a developer experience, also using this feature or this SQL feature is quite important. Makes the journey so much easier actually. No need to write code or Java classes, but also you can also do it directly in SQL. So can you just touch on the machine learning and AI side of using Hazelcast, and how do you see it?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is that with Hazelcast being a both stream processing as well as a fast data storage in one runtime, it means you're no longer serializing across two different applications and having to do the slow transformation of one data set into another. And what that affords you, certainly in a machine learning environment or in an AI machine learning space, is being able to access that data ultra fast. And that's essentially really where we start seeing the value. Being able to use Hazelcast for fast inference affords you the ability to be able to act even quicker than you would normally be able to just using some regular data storage, or even some more slower systems where actually accessing that data can be more complicated. So having both an IMDG, essentially an in-memory data grid, combined with our stream processing jet engine, by not having all of those serialization boundaries, means that we can actually act on that data ultra fast.
Great to hear. So I've got a question live from Ambu, if you don't mind answering. So the question is, I used IMDG as a cache for an application. How combining Jet with IMDG helps caching and other new use cases?
Oh, perfect timing. So, as I mentioned, having an IMDG and a Jet streaming engine in one solution actually really just affords you the ability to avoid all of those serialization processes that you would normally need to do as you go out of one system and into another. Separately, it allows you then the ability to do smarter things around streaming SQL and the various other APIs that we make available across all of our structures, both the data grid as well as the stream process. So actually, we don't segregate the two. It's actually just a unified platform. And by having that unified platform, it affords you the ability to unlock whichever use cases you see fit. So a good example of that is one of our customers who's actually using our platform for their engineering team to build these very rich applications that are then pushing data through the platform ultra quick. Now, they also have this need where data engineers need to be able to access the data to be able to understand what the system is doing and also understand really why certain decisions are being made. So being able to apply the SQL over the top and deal with the data engineering requirements at the same time as having the application developer team being able to push that application to ultimately perform at the level that they needed to perform really is now starting to provide that high value that you get from a unified platform as opposed to having people going into multiple different systems. And for us, as you know, every time you move data, it opens you up to two problems. One is around data consistency, making sure that the data seems the same in both locations, as well as also then looking at things like quantization errors, where if you're rounding the data as you're moving it from one data platform into another, you're then going to end up with all these rounding problems. So maintaining that high fidelity in the data store and making sure that you're not moving the data once it's actually persisted, that is actually really the high value that Hazelcast brings.
Yeah, this is great to hear. I think also it's quite important to mention latency in this case. So by combining IMDG and JET, basically we reduce latency compared to having two solutions or more to do the same job. Isn't right, this part here?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct as well. So the more runtimes you're going through to be able to access your data and be able to action your data, you're going to have typically different threading patterns, different processing patterns, different access patterns, essentially. And each time you do that, as well as having the different serialization mechanisms that you need between each of those platforms, you're going to end up incurring some penalty. And by not having to deal with any of those penalties and having the simplicity of that unified platform, you're able to access that data ultra fast. And that's really what we're all about.
That's great to hear. I think you mentioned serialization, so I just wanted to plug in Neil Stevenson sessions for tomorrow and after tomorrow. So we have Neil Stevenson for 14 golden rules of using Hazelcast best practices. So make sure to sign up and join. I will watch it again, even though I recorded it. So can you just let us know how to deploy Hazelcast? What are the options of deploying Hazelcast and best practicing when it comes to deployment?
Yeah, so Hazelcast really is available in two flavors: a self-hosted model, and soon to be launched is our managed service as well. So in the self-hosted world, essentially you could deploy Hazelcast in a multiple different ways. We provide Docker images, we provide a Kubernetes platform operator, Helm charts as well. Also, you can simply take the Hazelcast open source or enterprise jar and spin it up and run it, and you've got yourself a cluster member. As you look at the managed solutions, really for on Viridian, we'll be offering those in different shapes and sizes. So watch out for Viridian's big launch, hopefully coming soon.
Yeah, this is quite exciting news. And what type of connectors we can use to connect to Hazelcast? So, any programming languages or any specific clients?
Yeah, so I mean, from a connectors perspective, if you think about I guess third-party connectors, looking at systems like Kafka, looking at relational databases, looking at S3 buckets, file systems, just to be able to use them as both a source of data or a sink of data. Equally, using the concept of what essentially is a map loader. And a map loader, for those who haven't had a chance to use Hazelcast yet, essentially allows you to push data from a much more slower data store into Hazelcast's in-memory data grid to be able to allow you to do compute on that data as fast as possible, essentially. So we have all of those connectors, but in terms of programming languages that we support, so we are mainly a Java first company, so we support Java holistically. But in addition to that, we also provide C Sharp, Python, C++, Go, Node.js as well. So I think we can probably cover most of people's programming needs, and that's also on top of that, we also support SQL. I would also mention as well. So there's some SQL APIs, there's RESTful APIs. We support the Memcache protocol. there's quite a lot. Hazelcast is pretty rich these days. I would encourage everybody to go check it out and really see what it offers. And guess what? If it doesn't offer something that you might need, feel free to message us right on our Hazelcast community Slack. I'd love to hear from our community members on what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to do, and help really build it and make it the product that you want it to be.
Yeah, I think this is quite important for anyone watching us. After is quite active on our community Slack, but also like you're doing more than engineering job, right? So you basically go meet customers and face customers. So any tips in deploying his account in production, or what would you recommend basically for mission critical applications when it comes to production?
Yeah, I think definitely following our best practices around our production checklist. I would absolutely encourage any customers or users to really take a look at that as well. We provide a lot of good guidance on how you go about setting up and configuring Hazelcast. But in addition to that, one thing I would also suggest is check out compact serialization. It's one of the key differentiators actually for Hazelcast. And when you look at it, something which needs to be performant and is actually memory optimized as well. There are very few solutions out there. Even protobuf, for example, isn't as memory optimized as compact serialization is, and largely isn't as performant in particular workloads as compact serialization. So those are the kinds of things that I've noticed. Actually, the customers who are leveraging the advanced capabilities that Hazelcast provides, they get the maximum performance out of the deployment. So yeah, there's a lot to do with Hazelcast. Take a look. There's lots of switches, there's lots of configuration that can help you optimize your deployment. But I would say start with the basic use case of what is your uptime requirement, what is your availability, what is the latency that you're interested in, and then you go from there in terms of optimizing how you actually leverage the platform.
Yeah, this is great to hear. So, from a challenging perspective for stream processing mission critical applications, can you describe what are these challenges, for example, for a specific use case or specific scenario, and how Hezacast can fit into this picture and solve the problem or challenges?
Yeah, we had an interesting use case where we had a customer who's processing millions upon millions of transactions, payment transactions essentially, and the need was to be able to run multiple inference models in a short time envelope, essentially within 50 milliseconds, to be able to run as much inference as possible to determine whether this was potentially a fraudulent transaction or not. And with Hazelcast being as performant as it is, being able to run that much more inference meant that you get a much higher score on whether this fraud is actually some actually incorrect fraud or if it actually is a potential fraud that's taking place. And by having that higher confidence rating, it allowed them to actually remove many false positives. Overall, just by using the platform, they were able to save themselves a very large sum of money in terms of fraudulent activity. But actually, that's a real world use case where we had a small time envelope which we are operating within, and we have to make sure that we're performing at maximum throughput with high uptime. As you can imagine, if you're putting us in line of sight of a transactions processing capability for a large amount of payments, you want to make sure that the system is solid and robust as well as performant. And that's really where Hazelcast shines in terms of mission critical platforms.
Great to hear. So we've got a question comparing single site versus multiple sites. Can you just describe
Mhm.
the differences?
Yeah, so for Hazelcast to be able to be used across multiple availability zones, essentially, we provide WAN replication. And what that affords you is the ability to run in a model where you're active active, where you could be active passive, or indeed be blue green with your deployments. So this allows our users to ultimately be able to do some A/B testing, for example, of the next release of their software by running it against the blue side versus the green side, be able to do partial rollouts as well, and be able to actually manage multi-site capabilities there without loss of any performance or any degradation of data quality as well. So these are the really advanced use cases that we tend to start seeing and we start actually supporting and unlocking for our customers. And having this significant amount of uptime really ensures that actually customers are then able to reduce the RTO time, right? So their recovery time is approaching closer towards zero, as well as ensuring that they have many nines of uptime.
Yeah, I think this is a very important time of the year where we have Black Fridays and holiday season and so on, where things can go wrong, right? So, and essentially, you don't want to rely on a so solution. So, actually, having a professional service makes sense in these cases, isn't it? Right here.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, if you've got mission critical platforms, you need to have multi availability zone support, right? You need a multi site support essentially at that point in time. And Hazelcast goes above and beyond because it also provides strong consistency. And by giving you access to both strong consistency as well as multi availability zone support, you're now not only in a position where you're supporting a recovery time of very small numbers, but actually you're able to then start providing data recovery times of a very small number as well. So that allows our customers to be able to recover from situations incredibly quickly, far faster than they would be able to than if they weren't using Hazelcast, for example.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I think I'm gonna switch gears back again to engineering. I know lots of engineering are listening and watching us live now. So, can you describe the engineering team and what your day look like? I know you cover all multiple time zones and so on.
So in terms of the engineering team that we have, we work with some of the smartest engineers I think I've ever worked with. I've had the pleasure of working at some pretty strong organizations, including Meta as well, as I mentioned. But some of the engineers that we have here, they really are the smartest engineers that I think I've ever worked with. These are people who absolutely understand performance. They absolutely understand how to ensure that the platform is robust and scalable as well. We have engineers based in the UK, based in the Netherlands, Hungary. We have engineers out in Bulgaria, Turkey as well. And also we have some engineers out in North America. So very well distributed group, but a group of individuals who are all like-minded. They care about data platforms and they care about delivering value to users and our customers alike. And they're people who are passionate about Java, essentially, which is where all of our roots are, which is in the Java community, essentially, as well. So in terms of what does my day look like, goodness, every day is a new day. I would suggest, right? I think I would say a large chunk of my day actually is spent understanding really the demands, the needs, the wishes, the wants of our users and our customers, right? To be able to provide a product that gives you a very high value. It's helping the team unblock themselves in terms of being able to move forwards, especially with some challenging technical conversations. So, for example, looking at storage engines, looking at optimizing query optimizers for SQL, being able to think about how we unlock additional APIs for our customers, as well as looking at the raw core or engine that Hazelcast provides, which is an event and data replication engine, and how do we make that more robust. So it could be any number of these things that you get involved with. And given the fact that Hazelcast is a mission critical platform for many, many users, many customers, I think the demands and their wishes and wants typically can change from a day-to-day basis because actually, thankfully for me, because the system is pretty robust and does everything it needs to do really, really well, often the conversations are positive and it talks about actually how they can do more with the product and not necessarily any issues or challenges that they're coming up against. So for me, I think that's a real positive as well. Being able to work with customers directly to solve those high value problems, I think is definitely an exciting challenge.
Yeah, this is great to hear. I think this is also quite important or hot question to ask here. So basically, are you hiring? What do you look for? Or maybe for me, just for me, can you give like a tip or two for anyone watching us now to make this process? How does it look like for the interview process? What you look for, and anything you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are we hiring? Absolutely. We've been pretty successful this year in terms of growing the engineering team, and going forwards into the next 12 months, we'll be looking to grow further. In terms of what we're really looking for, we're looking for that real special blend, the blend of individual who really deeply understands and cares for end user and customer and product level development, but also deeply technical, right? Somebody who can bring value to the group. And that's really when we're looking at both ends of the spectrum. We're looking at people who are just starting that journey, as well as people who've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years as well. So, if you're either end of that spectrum, I encourage you to put yourself forwards to want to work with Hazelcast. But in terms of the interview process and what does that look like, we're very quick actually. Like I try and pride myself on the fact that we're able to actually turn it around within a short space of time. So we aim to do it within a 2 week cycle. We aim to have initial interview with our individuals and with our team just to try and understand really what it is that you're looking for. Then we want to spend some time getting into some technical interviews. And then after the technical interview, we then move straight into understanding more about what that career trajectory looks like and getting additional signal if there's anything that we maybe didn't quite capture as part of the interview process, or if there was anything that we just need a bit more information on, then we'll dig into that. So typically it's 2 week cycle from start to finish with typically about 3 interviews essentially that you'll be going through. So don't worry for us. We'll definitely get back to you as soon as we possibly can with that one.
That's pretty fast, to be honest, compared like to what you hear or you see on LinkedIn. Can you give a top tip now for anyone who wants to apply? What should they highlight, or make sure that we actually will also offer support on this process here?
Yeah, I'd say passion. Right, have a passion for that end product. Have a passion for quality. Have a passion for wanting to learn. Right, and I think just come with an open mind. I think if you're really keen to actually come and work with some really bright individuals who, like I mentioned already, are distributed around the world, you're going to get the opportunity with us. I would also say, I want people who really think about the end customer. How is this going to add value to an end consumer? How is somebody going to be able to get value out of using this code? At Hazelcast, we're not interested in just writing code for the sake of writing code, right? This code is going to be used by people and it's going to be used by mission critical systems. So we do need to think about the quality of what we're putting forward, and then that also makes you to have different design considerations and execute in a different way as well. So I think that's really where the excitement and the energy is. It's more around the fact that actually we have that opportunity to really work with some high end individuals, but also we have some very demanding customers, which actually is not a bad thing because they're using the product, which actually it's good to know that we're solving real world problems.
Definitely, it enhance also the product by itself. I want to touch on the community. I know that you are a strong advocate for the community. Can you describe the Hezacast community and the linkage to the GitHub? I know this is a question you can ask me, but I'm asking you.
So look, I think Hazelcast would not be the company it is today without the community, and that's a fact. Our roots are baked within our open source, and it's something which we maintain today. So from the days of Hazelcast as an in-memory data grid, as well as our JetStream processing engine, to today where we have a unified platform. Everything has been done with our open source community in mind. Our and GitHub is public, right? So you can go onto the Hazelcast GitHub and be able to download and take a look at the source code within the Hazelcast repository. In fact, I encourage everybody to go ahead and do that. Hazelcast itself as well, it has a fairly active community on Slack. So I encourage people to download, install Slack, get on the Hazelcast community Slack, and we see all of our community action members actually helping one another as well, which is a very nice thing to see. And then we're also spending time actually engaging with them, deeply understanding their use cases, as well as trying to understand really what they're trying to achieve. I think what you tend to find actually with our community, they're quite innovative, right? They're going to use the product in ways that it was never designed. And you know what? I'm okay with that because it also unlocks and shows us there's actually more value than perhaps we actually thought in some of the things that we built. And so it's quite nice to be able to get that access to the disruptors and the innovators that exist out there, because this is the group of individuals who fundamentally are going to be building the future. So for me, it's a real pleasure to work with that community, actually.
That's great to hear, and especially from you. I think it's one of the fastest way to learn Hazacast basically is to be active in the community, see the code, figure out if there is an issue that you can fix or you can submit PR. Actually, also helps and speeds up the hiring process and securing a job as Hazacast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we got a number of our engineers actually were community contributors. So actually, that's a great way to start. Is if you want to talk to them about whether they know the code base, absolutely, because they helped to build it in the community as well. So, they've gone on and had long careers here. We've had some who have been with us 8 years since the days when they were Hazelcast users or even potential looking at it as a customer to now actually helping build the product. So they're making it the product that they want it to be, which is great to see. And I think, look, if you go to the Hazelcast repository, you'll get a chance to see some entry level tasks as well. That will just help you ramp up and get you used to the code base. If anyone's interested to get started with the code base, encourage you to go to the GitHub repo, go take a look at some of those open issues, go pick one of those up and put up a diff. And you know what? You'll start engaging with our engineering team immediately as well, which is great to see.
Yeah, great to hear this, Abdul. Thanks so much. So, some rapid question before I let you go, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
All
Go
right.
for it.
So, coffee or tea for you?
Coffee,
Coffee. Okay. Pizza or pasta?
pizza.
Pizza. Okay. Last movie you watched?
Oh, the last film I watched was Uncharted, actually. So I only watched that recently. That was only 2 days ago with the family. So very timely question.
It's a very nice movie. Yes. And book you're reading or your last read?
Oh, so the book I'm reading at the moment is A History of Seven Killings. It's Marlon James's book. It's about the assassination attempt on Bob Marley. It was put up for the Booker Prize a number of years ago. It's an exciting and interesting book. I'm halfway through it, so please don't spoil the ending if anyone's watching.
Sure. Android or iOS?
Oh, I'm an iOS fan.
Okay. Meeting morning or afternoon meetings?
Morning all day long. After lunch, I'm tapering away, I think.
Thanks so much. You made it so far today after lunch. Final question: cricket or football for you?
Cricket for me every time.
That's good. You need to teach me rules actually because I'm not really next time we meet. Any final thoughts before we finish, or any final words you want to share?
Yeah, look, I think my journey with Hazelcast so far is just over 12 months. I'm at the start of the journey. I'm excited now as I was the day I joined, right? I think the future is very bright. I see a lot of high value use cases that we're unlocking, and that for me keeps me going every day. I don't know what the future ultimately holds. I think that's quite exciting in and of itself, and I'm pleased that we have both customers as well as community members helping guide us and really drive the product to where it's going to be. A number of the features that we built have largely come from our community users who have actually been using the product and giving us some great feedback. So, you know what? Keep on doing it because you're helping us make it an absolutely top quality product, which a large number of our customers and users alike are benefiting from. So, keep that up, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, After, for your time. I know you're busy. And thanks for anyone watching us. Make sure to sign up for the DevRel campaign. And I will see you tomorrow with the 14 Golden Rules with Neil Stevenson. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.